mass quantities of vagrant children.
You know, kicking the crap out of them.
When their faces light up, they just shine.
It's the Indian saying, "This is my country. This is India."
Yeah.
And this is what it's like to be here and to live here and to know what it's like. And none of us here are really going to understand that, having not had that experience.
I felt like he managed to capture, like to encapsulate a whole country, a whole culture, a whole sort of perspective that is essentially completely foreign to us, but then he wrapped it in a family interpersonal story that's basically just about three people, and yet in the story of those three people you see the progression of an entire nation, the whole modernization of India, the whole growth of the major cities there.
In a lot of ways it felt very similar to reading Kim by Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah.
It's like Rudyard Kipling always said of the book, if you haven't lived in India, and actually the people that read it, just even the British colonialists were like, if you've never been there, you can read it, you'll appreciate it, but you're never going to understand it.
Like the security guard, kicking the crap out of him, and the Americans are freaking out, like, oh, we're gonna show you the American way, and like you expect, oh, maybe they're gonna, take him to a hospital, take him home, take care of him, hands him a $100 bill, and walks off. Because this is like the 8th time we've seen like an adult kick the crap out of this kid, and like every other time, like nobody else bats an eye, and just seeing them actually react to that, whereas everybody else, like they see that all the time, just the cops chasing the street urchins. If there's one thing I'd take away from this movie, it's never ever go to India. Ever.
It's just a lot of things are just so completely disconnected from an American or a Western understanding of what life is like. We just don't really deal with mass quantities of vagrant children running through the streets. Like,
felt totally realistic and kind of gritty and earthy, and really seemed like the real deal.
What'd you think of the kids?
The child actors? The child actors were incredible. They were amazing.
They just, the amount of things they were able to do was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
They were right in it. They were when they were running from the cop, they were running from the cop. I don't know where they found them, but they did an amazing job.
They totally were capable of carrying a close-up. And that's one thing that you do not see with child actors very much, that they can just tell the whole story with the look on their face. When their faces light up, they just shine. They absolutely just come out of their box. It was incredible.
Probably really good at portraying things because they're not actually acting. They're just like, you want me to play? Whatever. They just go and they do whatever the script or the director's telling them to do. They're not, I'm going to pretend to be this person who is going to be doing this. I'm just gonna do it. Whatever. thanks for the money, man.
Yeah.
Kind of dragged at times, or times where I'm like, okay, yeah.
Some of it did feel a little stilted as they were kind of getting into the idea of like, okay, we're actually telling you backstory and coming up and back, and so it was like, okay, but at the same time, they managed to form a fairly Western story arc that was very, very followable. The structure felt very much like a book. It was like the way the flow of the story moved was like reading.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, it did very much feel like a book. It was chapter, end, chapter, end, chapter, end.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's good or bad for a movie. I mean, it's definitely a choice.
But I think on the whole, like you said, it was really well put together. The editing and the color stuff was just fantastic.
Really great acting, the writing and the effects, and just everything was really well done. It was a very sort of down story. It was very miserable through 90% of it.
Yeah, just rough.
And like it ended on a high note, but at the same time, it's just like you've seen all of this like terrible stuff, and then the very ending kicks in, and it just blows you right out of that. It just, and I mean, at the very end of the movie, when the credits rolled, everybody, like the entire theater, clapped.
Yep.
I was very impressed.
Okay, go. Focus.
Hi.
Yeah, they just do the dance again. Totally using that.
What?